everyone. My name is Ashley Hill, and I just want to welcome you guys to my first radio show of many to come. I am a college success coach, and I run my own college prep consulting firm, and the purpose of it really is to help our college-bound teens and their families to transition into college successfully. As you may know, millions and literally millions of high school students are applying to college along with traditional students every year. And so as the incoming middle school and high school students are coming in to their classes and as they progress on to their senior year of high school, they have to prepare themselves to have that competitive advantage so that when their applications hit the desk of the admissions staff at the particular schools, you know, that they'll be accepted and ideally into the school that they want and that it's best for them. And so that's really what this show is all about. And so I just want to give a quick introduction. Like I said, my name is Ashley Hill. I'm based out of Cincinnati, and I work with families to get webinars and give different presentations just to give our students some tools and tips and resources to help them get ready for college. And I encourage you, parents and those who are listening, throughout this show, if you do have any questions, please feel free to call in. That's area code 347-857-4638. Again, that's area code 347-857-4638. And so before I begin with today's topic, I want to give a quick retelling of my story and kind of how I got into this. I'm so excited and so passionate about this area because I went through the college process twice with my undergrad and graduate degrees, and I just remember, you know, going through that process, and it can be stressful, but it can be a successful and smooth transition with the proper preparation. And really, that involves a partnership. That's not just the teen getting ready to go to college, but we have to pull in the family, the parents, grandparents, aunts, uncles, whoever's involved on that end. We also have to pull in the educators. That's the teachers, the guidance counselors, the principals, program directors at the various schools. And also we have to bring in the community. That may include the church, the local banks, local nonprofit organizations that may come in and assist students or provide tutoring services or anything of that nature. So really it's a partnership. It's a team concept. And that's really what my goal is with all these shows and the future shows, is to help parents to come to the table with their portion of the team and to really push their teen into greatness. So today I want to talk about 5 tips for parents, for you guys to help your teen stay at the top of the class. As we all know, school is back in session. I can't even believe it. The summer has just flown by, but it is that time again. And going into the school year, just as in the others I've mentioned, even though today I'm mentioning tips that will help teens stay at the top of their class in middle school or high school, this is really in preparation for college, their future career, and beyond. So these are skills that they're going to constantly need to utilize really for the rest of their lives. So it's so important to get grounded and get founded now. And even though it's your teen that's in middle school or high school, you do play a very, very important role. And, you know, there is no secret. Of course, every student is going to start with 100% because they haven't received any testing or homework assignments. They haven't been graded yet as of the first day of school. But as the school year progresses, obviously, depending on the performance of the student, the grades will, they will alter. Some will be at the top range. That's the 4.0s, the straight A students. You're going to have your middle range, and you're going to have those at the lower end. But parents, you definitely can come in as a part of the partnership, the team, and you can help your teams to stay at the top because that's really what they want. And like I said, you have to look at the bigger picture here. It's not just, okay, I want to get straight A's or I want to maintain a good GPA for middle school or high school, but you have to think forward into, okay, I want to go into college. I want to be a nurse. I want to be a doctor. I want to be an architect. I want to be an artist. Whatever the future endeavors are, that's going to depend on getting the required degrees and skills and certifications to pursue those future careers, which depends on having a successful college career. And for you to have a successful college career, you have to get into college first. And so that's really what the mindset has to be. So let's jump right into our tips. And like I said, feel free to call in, ask questions. I'm going to keep mentioning that throughout the show, so definitely feel free. And again, that number is area code 347-857-4638. And again, that's area code 347-857-4638. So let's get into the first tip, and that's the mentality. Whenever I work with students or talk to parents or start out my presentations, I really hammer on the mentality because your thoughts precede your actions. And you can tell your teams this or bring them in, so they can listen to this as well. Your thoughts precede your actions. What do I mean by that? I mean that whatever you're pondering on, whatever your future actions are going to be, it has to first become a thought. The chair that you sit in, the car that you're driving, the pencil that you're using, the cell phone that you're speaking on, the computer that you're doing something on, all of that began as a thought in someone's mind, and then someone drew the plans out and created that object or concept. And so students can apply that same concept to school and academic success. They have to first think it, and then they have to, secondly, visualize it and then carry it out. And really that's my motto for my company. That's my personal motto as well. And actually I used this same concept when I was going through college. Is what is the mentality? You have to come in with a positive and winning mentality that there is no option to fail. I'm going to do well in this class. This may not be my favorite class, but I'm going to do well. And so parents, you can help your teams in that regard, encourage them and say, how are you approaching this? Let's make sure we approach this the right way. And definitely since it's September and with school just starting, a lot of kids are probably, oh, my goodness, oh, man, school's just starting. I don't want to go back. I want a few more weeks of summer break. But your team can stay at the top because they're going to come in with the right attitude and the right mentality. That I'm here, this is my job, this is what I need to do, and I'm going to be successful because it's going to start in my mind. And parents, here's an extra bonus to this first one, is you can be the example. Let your team see you having a positive mentality as you approach your work or the activities that you're involved in. Let your team see you doing that. You be the example. And also putting them around others to show them as well, other positive people progressing forward so that they have all these great examples around them. The next the next tip I want to get into is focus on the application of knowledge. And I'll say it again, focus on the application of knowledge. So what does that mean? Well, it's easy to come into a class and just receive information because, and I can assure you, your teams will, be in a lecture style most likely, learning style, depending on, obviously, the subject. They may be more involved versus, if it's a science class, versus art or music. Obviously, they may be moving around or doing something, physically manipulating something to learn a concept. But a lot of it is the teacher will be talking. They will probably be taking notes, and they will be listening. But it's important not only to receive this knowledge, but as your teams are listening, and you can share this, as they're listening, as they're writing notes, as they're sitting there in the presentation, their minds already need to be working on how does this apply? How does this information apply to what we're talking about? Because I can tell you, once your team progresses on through the rest of their K-12 career, once they get to the high school setting, this is going to be required. This is how the professors will teach, and their expectations are that your teams can apply whatever theory is being taught to a real-life situation. So instead of waiting until then, help your teams to learn this skill now. And it's so important because not only will this be used in college, this will be used on the job. Every day you're going to be applying whatever you've learned to a real-life situation on the job. The employer is going to expect, that student, now graduate, college graduate, to be able to solve issues at work, to be able to perform certain techniques based on what they've been shown or what they've learned in college. That's why it's very, very important. And I'll give an example. I was a biology major in my undergrad years at Kent State University. And, it's not enough to just repeat facts because, as you can imagine, in a biology class, there are certain things that are fact we cannot argue. For example, gravity. Gravity is here. It exists. But, okay, can we apply gravity to a real-life situation? How can we use that information to understand other things and bridge the gap and make connections? Because I can assure you, your teams will do better on their exams, They will do better in their homework assignments. They will do better on their projects if they can bridge the gap and make the connections. Because anybody can just say, the sky is blue. But can you apply the information? That's the next step that your team needs to take, and that you can help them bridge the gap in that learning. And also, parents, you don't have to, just wait for your teams to get this introduction to this at the school. You can do this at home. Let's say that you're cooking. That's chemistry right there. Depending on what else you're doing, that can bring in other subjects. So, while your team is around, obviously, you don't want to make them feel like they're in school again, but you can just casually mention, well, wow, we're doing this. Okay, this connects to this. This is how you apply this concept to get them used to being in that mode, that mindset. It's very, very important. Also, I want to get to the next tip is create a strategy. And I think this one is really what sets the difference between really, really successful students and students who need to improve is creating a strategy. You want to start this school year with a plan in mind. With a plan in mind. And I remember this old quote my pastor used to say, if you fail to plan, you plan to fail. So you have to come in with a plan, and it needs to be strategic. And not only is that learning the information, but that's one, being organized. After you create the plan, being organized, deciding, really before school had started to decide, okay, we're going to, from these hours to these hours, we're going to focus on homework, then we have other chores we need to do, we have other activities we need to be involved in, but everything needs to be scheduled, everything, because I can tell you from seeing other students, a disorganized student, it's setting themselves up for failure, because they're missing assignments, they don't know where this project went, they don't remember, this assignment because they didn't write it down, or they lost their calendar, or they lost a folder, and it's so easy to be disorganized with the hustle and bustle of the school year, and parents, you're busy too, so it's definitely understandable, but there are ways that you can come in and help your team to be organized. Number one, let them see you being organized. If you're a disheveled person, or if you are not the most organized person, this might be a time, for you to work on that, and then you can also help your team along the way. You coming in and not throwing papers all over the house or what have you, but let them see you be organized, and that way you can model that behavior, for your team while they're at school, for example, if they have a history class, to put all the history information in a history folder with their history book. For example, not to have the science homework in the math folder, or the math homework in the English folder, or the English book, but to be organized, because then they're going to be able to learn better. That's going to decrease the distractions, and really it's a win-win, for the student. They're setting themselves up for success. And as I just mentioned with the previous tip, they can apply that knowledge better when they're not distracted because they don't, they're missing things, or they don't know where certain things are. Also, along with creating a strategic plan, is knowing the strengths and weaknesses of your team. So, for example, let's say that your team comes in and says, hey, Mom, hey, Dad, I have to take algebra this year, and, I'm really not keen on math. That's not the time to say, oh, man, well, just do the best you can, son or daughter, and just, talk to your teacher about it. No, it's create a strategy. If the team can pinpoint, and this, of course, they will probably need to help the teacher to help them figure this out. This is where you can come in, and, you can say, hey, okay, my child has a weakness in this area. Let's start the year off with how we're going to attack this. Not be complacent and sit back, but let's be proactive, and let's see how we can attack this challenge and overcome it. Because, let's face it, again, this is middle school and high school really is a preparation not only for college, but life after that, future employment, relationships, everything. So you certainly wouldn't tell your team, hey, oh, well, you can't figure this out. Don't worry about it. That's not how the real world is. That's not how life is. But there are certain challenges just in life that we're going to have to overcome, and that your team is going to have to overcome. And so what better place to start than now in your home, where you can model this and help your team figure this out. So, sit down with them and say, hey, let's write out some things that, you're solid in, subjects you're solid in, or things that you're not concerned about. And let's talk about maybe some concerns that you have with certain classes. Once you write it down, you can then see how you need to create a plan. And I'm going to, in the final 2 steps, talk about 2 important aspects, that need to go along with creating a strategic plan. But like I said, so in general, have them sit down and say, hey, let's write this out. I know the school has started. You can sit down tonight. You can sit down tomorrow. But this needs to be done as soon as possible if you haven't already had this discussion with your team, because it's very, very important because, as we're talking about tonight, we want to maintain good grades because it's easier to maintain good grades than to, take a dip into maybe the CD average and then try to raise it up. It's better to maintain, good, solid grades. Okay, so we talked about, I just want to kind of recap so far for those of you that are just joining us. We talked about the mentality. Your thoughts precede your actions. You have to think it, then visualize it, then do it. Then secondly, we talked about focusing on application of knowledge. It's not enough to spit out facts and just repeat facts, but apply it to real life. And again, this is going to take your teams further beyond middle school and high school, but on to college, their future employment, and really the rest of their lives. And we just talked about creating a strategic plan. And in that, we're talking about sit down with your team, create a plan, get organized, talk about the strengths and weaknesses. Basically, have an outlook of the year that your team wants to have and set goals. Maybe they didn't, for example, maybe they want a higher grade in social studies. They want to tackle that. We'll start off the year with that in mind, and that really piggybacks off of the mentality. Start off the year with with a positive outlook that I'm going to do well. Speak it, think it, believe it, and visualize. Your team needs to visualize themselves doing it, and you can encourage them and remind them of these tips along the way. And also, especially with making their goals, one way they're going to to fulfill their goals, which includes increasing their grades if need be, is to focus on applying the knowledge, because that's how the testing is going to go. Sure, the teachers may ask, what are certain theories, but they're also going to ask, how can we apply this if so-and-so has a certain situation? Okay, our 4th tip, encourage early communication. And what I mean by this is if there are certain weaknesses or certain, perhaps there's a disability involved or different issues, is encourage your team to step up and talk, and also you. And that means meeting with your teachers, counselors, support staff, principal, depending on the issue. So start off the year having everyone involved. That goes back to that partnership concept I was talking about. Get everyone on board, everyone's involved, so that the team can be successful and they can maintain those stellar grades. That may mean emailing. For you parents that are working, I totally understand that. That may mean you may have a monthly meeting, or maybe you have a check-in, a phone call, quick 5-10-minute phone call, to get progress outside of when I was in high school or in middle school, the teachers would meet with the parents yearly and have a report. But you know what? Don't wait for that. Encourage your team, say, hey, the first sign of anything, you need to talk to your teacher, meet with them after class, set up an appointment, whatever we need to do. That's what we need to do. Now, I want to get into our final tip, and that is don't wait on the teacher to instruct. For example, I'll give an example. Let's say that your team, this school's in, and let's say, already they say, oh, my goodness, I'm having an issue in English. Well, yes, it is the teacher's responsibility to teach. That's what they're there for, to provide an environment for learning. But they can't make your team learn. You can't even make your team learn. Your team is responsible for learning the material. And so don't wait. If your team knows already they either have a disliking or they're having an issue in the class, number one is to ask questions. And I know, obviously, in the middle school and high school years, a lot of kids get bullied. I got bullied, for asking questions and speaking up and doing your homework. But you know what? That's another issue that can be resolved with the bullying, but education is a priority, and it must be the priority for the teens, and really parents is where you can step in, and you can ask your teen, well, I heard you grumbling earlier about English. Did you talk to your teacher? What steps did you take? And then, if need be, you can definitely step in and you can ask questions and inquire yourselves and be involved in this process because, again, it's all about teamwork. In addition to that, in addition to asking questions, is when your teens come home. Let's say you're going over proper grammar, okay? If for some reason your teen did not understand that day, they can get online, Google or what have you, Yahoo, and research themselves. You have to do what you have to do because, again, as we talked about a little bit earlier, this is about creating a strategy. This is about having the right mindset. That's what it's all about. So going into this year, to stay on top, if your teens need to research, if that takes another hour out of their afternoon schedule, so be it. It's worth it, to get that knowledge. And don't wait until the next day. If possible, try to clear up the confusion within the same day. And that includes reviewing over the notes from class. Like I said, staying after school and asking questions if need be, or asking questions during the class, because you have to think about it. The teachers, like I said, it is definitely their responsibility to provide the learning environment. But you have 30, 35 kids in a classroom, or if you're homeschooling, it's a bit different. But in a traditional school setting, you have all these kids, the teacher's attention is divided, and not that that's a stumbling block, but it's just that for the team to be proactive. And parents, you can really push that now to be proactive because, again, they're going to need to be proactive in college when they have the same issue because then on a college setting, parents, you're not able to call your student or child's professor. That's not going to happen. So you can help them now by acquiring the skill of being proactive at the first sight, of an issue is to get involved, to be involved and have active learning in this process. Also, is to seek additional resources. That includes tutoring. If, I know this is only maybe the first or second or third week for certain school districts, it's never too early to have a tutor. And even if perhaps a student doesn't suspect an issue now, but maybe they're concerned about that certain area, it's okay to have a tutor on standby. I'm aware of certain companies who, you can call them and say, hey, I'm starting the school year. I just want to start now with a tutor just to get the conceptual information, the theories, and the formulas down so that I can be successful the rest of the school year. And, you don't have to go every week. It's just a person that you can check in with perhaps once every other week or once a month, just to make sure that, you're where you need to be and where your teams need to be. And so parents, you can take the initiative on that. If your team's coming to you and perhaps you're working with the teacher but you need additional time, additional instruction, it's perfectly fine, to call sign out your local tutoring companies or look online, find your reputable tutor who has proven to help students, and to secure one for your student. It's definitely fine. Also, your team may need additional practice. And so, for me, what I did, because, math was definitely a challenge for me as it is for a lot of people, what I did is I actually went online, found additional homework sheets. Trust me, there are so many websites dedicated to this free, with free information, free tips, free resources. There are retired teachers who are, putting up homework sheets. There are so many resources out there. But, again, it goes back to being proactive. Your parents, your teens have to be proactive about finding out this information. And parents, you can help as well. Perhaps, you can Google and maybe print off a few sheets of what have you or additional information to help your team. So you guys can really work together. And so, again, I just want to reiterate here before we come to a close. Number one, I talked about your mentality, your thoughts, procedure, actions. Number two, I talked about focus on the application of knowledge, not just repeating facts, but learning how to apply the information. Number three, create a strategy, a strategic plan for how you're going to approach this school year, tackle it, and really to be aware of your team's strengths and weaknesses so that you can help them, figure out what will be the best course of action because it's different for everyone. Next is to encourage early communication. That's talking with the other members of the team that I was referring to earlier, that partnership. That includes the teachers, the counselors, the support staff, principal if necessary, but not waiting for an issue to evolve and develop further, but to tackle it early at the first sight of an issue or a question or a concern. Lastly is be proactive. If your team comes home and they're confused, try to work out and research and get information that same evening, and then go back to class, the next day and ask questions and get further clarification. But take some active role in the learning process. And so those are the 5 tips that I want to share with you parents, and I definitely encourage, obviously, for you to pass this along to your teams. And, even though this is for maintaining stellar grades, if your team does happen to slip in their grades, they can also still use these tips, to improve their grades. They can still contact their teacher. They can still create a strategy. It's never too late for that. They can still focus on applying the knowledge. It's never too late for that. That's a lifelong skill and concept that needs to be acquired and mastered. This is even for them. And now lastly, I just wanted to touch on a few things. Number one is if you do have any questions, feel free again to call in, or if not, I am on Facebook. I have a Facebook page that is Prep, the number 4, College. Feel free to share your thoughts with me. If you have some other tips, parents, that you're using, feel free to share and continue the dialogue. Also, if you have any other questions, I am on Twitter, and that's Prep, the word for FOR, College. And again, tweet me, share your thoughts on there or questions that you have as well. But also I want to end with a few things. And number one is if you do have additional questions, because, again, every student, is different. Every situation is different. I do have a free resource for you parents and for your teams as well. If you go to my website, the main page, and my website is www.collegeprepready, all one word, collegeprepready.com. You click there on the site, it's going to say, actually I will go to it right now. It says get your free gift. Click on free gift, and that will take you to our free gift page, and there you can download a PDF that I put together for you, and those are additional tips that you can start using and implementing now to help your teen not only become successful in middle school and high school, but also as they prepare for college and their future career. So that's really what we're working towards here, is the future and the big picture here. So go there, and I have resources for you. Also on the website, we also have scholarship resources. We have other organizations that are working with teens that you can feel free to check out as well. We also have articles, and we also have a blog, and everything is there on the homepage. Feel free to click through there. If you do have any questions, feel free to email me at info@collegeprepready.com. Again, that's info@collegeprepready.com. And feel free to ask questions. If you have any questions about the resource or the topic that we talked about today, definitely feel free to get in touch with me. And again, parents, it's all about maintaining the stellar grades. So feel free to share this with your teams. And I will be talking with you guys on our next radio program scheduled for next Wednesday.